Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. I can hardly believe that as I'm recording this, Bitcoin is once again above $50,000. I'm not gonna lie, there have been plenty of times when I thought that this day would be a long time coming. But nevertheless, here we are, yet again. But as we know, it's never really smooth sailing. If you're a long-term holder, then it certainly doesn't matter a whole lot what the price does next. But if you are looking to increase an existing position, or if for whatever reason you happen to be out of the market at the current moment, then there may be some benefit to waiting for a slight pullback or consolidation in the coming weeks and months. Now, as always, I have to stress yet again that this is not financial advice. The goal of my channel is to provide perspective and occasionally a little bit of education, but mostly for entertainment purposes. You have to take responsibility for your own investment decisions, as you and only you know how to invest your own money. The price of Bitcoin over the weekend has had its ups and downs, trading sideways just below the $50,000 mark, what we have finally been able to break through, this being a Sunday evening. Currently sitting at about $50,300. This is exciting to see. It has been quite some time since we've been here. And looking at the daily chart, you can already see what I'm going to be getting into here next. But it's been not since early May that we were falling through these levels with no end in sight. So it is certainly a sigh of relief for those that have been holding on through this whole period. For a while there, things were looking very bleak. Now, having said that, when we go back to our first rise through this level, we found that we topped out the first run at about 58,000. We had actually pulled back once prior to that from the 42,000 down back to the $30,000 level that we had just left. But what I want to point out is two levels on the chart here. You can see I've already labeled this level here as the golden ratio. What this means is this is the 61.8% retracement on the drop that we suffered from 65,000 down to about $29,000. That puts the golden ratio, the 61.8% retracement, retracing that fall back up to $51,030. We are very close to that level right now. And there is a second level that I've also had my eye on, and that's this horizontal line right here. I've done the math on this based on the current circulating number of Bitcoin. This is the $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, which sits at about $53,200. Either one of these levels would make perfect sense for Bitcoin to retrace from. I think it would be highly unlikely that Bitcoin blows right through both of these levels all the way back to all-time highs without some form of consolidation. If it did blow through that, that would be considered extremely unhealthy, and we would be likely faced with an even more violent correction. Realistically speaking, what I would be expecting to see would be some sort of extended consolidation at around these levels that could bring us down to retest support. Support being in and around the $41,000 to $42,000 area. Now, that may seem extreme, but as we know, that's basically par for the course when it comes to Bitcoin. We had seen a couple of downturns in this trend up, but as you can see, it never really broke market structure. These drawdowns actually only accounted for approximately 9% on Bitcoin, and that's over multiple days. Any one of these corrections that occurred in the initial run up had exceeded that in a single day. So rest assured, we will see those days again. I'm not saying that that's going to happen right away, but they will happen. So it's not always a bad thing to have a little bit of dry powder hanging around, if you know what I mean. If you haven't actually already entered a position, then now may not be the most ideal time to suddenly jump in. I've done a video before explaining what the golden ratio is and why people put so much significance on it. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave a link up here in the corner. You can go ahead and have a look at that. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens as Bitcoin approaches this level over the next, potentially over this evening. By tomorrow morning, we may have already reached it, but even still, we are close enough to it that it doesn't really matter. Now, I don't want to overly alarm people, but I did have a look back to see what sort of significance it may have played in previous cycles, namely the very last one. Going back to the fall from 2017, one thing of note here is that the drop from 2017, initially, the first fall, was actually more violent, but also occurred much faster. It looks quite a bit different than this cycle. Obviously, this entered into a very extended bear market, but also the full extent of the drop down to, at the time, was about $6,000. When Bitcoin did bounce, it reapproached about $11,000, almost $12,000. I can recall being a part of this. But it did not, since it had fallen so extensively, the retracement didn't bring us up anywhere near the golden ratio. That would have been up to over 14,000. It stalled out at about, like I said, about $12,000. And I can remember the mindset at the time for most of the traders was, this is not over yet. This is 2013 all over again. We're going all the way to $50,000. That was what everyone had on their minds. They thought we were going to be all the way at all-time highs within a few months, 2 tops. And as we know, what ended up following was multiple failed rallies until eventually the price gave out and we bottomed out in and around the $4,000 mark, which in a period that seemed to last forever. It is highly unlikely that we witness something like that, something to that effect again. This market is just, I don't think, going to give people that much time to get in their positions. I mean, just look at what it took to bring this market down to where it currently is sitting. And we've had basically everything but the kitchen sink thrown at us, from Elon Musk's tweets to the Bitcoin boiling the oceans, to the China FUD, Tether, basically everything that they have ever come up with, they've thrown at us. So all that to say, I don't believe we are headed into a long-term bear market. But I'm also not convinced that this is just going to be smooth sailing straight to all-time highs, or necessarily replicating the market that we saw back in 2013. I think Bitcoin may be writing its own book this time around, and really none of us know what exactly is going to happen next. Using certain technical analyses like this can certainly help improve your entries and exits occasionally, but you're still going to get it wrong from time to time. As a trader, if you're going to do that, you have to be okay with that. And if you're a long-term holder that only wants to cost average, well, then you don't have to think about any of that at all. But I still believe that your best time to be buying, even if you are cost averaging, is while the price is falling, not while it's making new highs day in and day out. We all know what follows. It's inevitable. It will come again. Hold on to some dry powder. Generally speaking, it'll be well worth your while. At least that's how I see it. As for the mining stocks, it's been a nice change of pace lately. A lot of these companies are really starting to reach their stride. So the next few months, between now and actually the close of this year, it's going to be remarkable to see exactly how much growth we can actually witness. And as we know, some of them are really just gearing up as we speak. I'd like to take a little bit of time and cover some of the different deals that have taken place, the SPACs and other mergers that have come to light. There is a massive amount of money being poured into this industry. I've been waiting to cover this topic ever since the fourth quarter of last year, and I've actually been saving some screenshots as time has gone on what the institutional ownership is in these stocks, and they're reaching levels that I honestly was never entirely sure we were going to see, but we're seeing it now. But I'll save that for a different video. For now, let's just see what happens with Bitcoin over the next couple of weeks and where exactly this level tends to peter out. I do think that once the next time we do regain the $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, could very well be the last, at least until the next major downturn, where that will become a serious level of possible support. One can only hope that this time that level will hold, and that could be the last time we ever see Bitcoin around these prices. Only time will tell, but I cannot wait to see what happens next. That's all for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.